Welcome back to the podcast, guys. It's Sunday morning, the same day this podcast is getting released. We waited because, as we mentioned on podcast 42, that we would have a Sika update. And me and Chris, as you guys know, we hunted Maryland Sika deer Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Sika.
Excuse me.
Sika.
Yeah, the correct is Sika deer in Maryland. Um, and today's Sunday morning after our trip. So we're going to give an update on what happened, and I'm going to give you a brief history of what I understand about Sika deer, and then we're going to go over this whole process. And I'm going to ask Chris a bunch of questions because I've hunted them before. Chris has not, so this is his first time. So, are you awake?
I'm totally wore out.
We are dead. We had long trips in and all day sits, and I got home last night and I crashed.
I didn't have that opportunity.
No, you had a 4 hour drive home.
I had a 4 hour drive home, and then, spoiler alert, I had to take care of an animal.
Yes, and we will get to that toward the end.
hmm
All right, so a lot of people heard of Sika deer, but don't really know much about them. And I'd be the first to admit I don't know a whole lot. But this is my second year hunting them, and a brief history is the the Sika deer is in Dorchester County, Maryland. There's a couple of counties there that they're in, but primarily in Dorchester. From what I understand, they were dropped off on James Island back in 1916, I believe, from a guy named Henry Clement. And apparently he dropped, I don't know why. I can't find out why he dropped them off, but apparently he dropped five off, five or six, I believe. Well, eventually they escaped this island, swam across, and they populated. So they've been in Maryland for over 100 years now, and now there's estimated populations of over 12,000. Um, they primarily live in the swamps of Dorchester, wetlands, and where there's a heavy population of Sika deer, there's a very extremely low population of whitetails. They do not,
That was interesting.
yeah, they do not live like the same, you know,
Co-inhabit.
right. Like I said, the Sika deer primarily like wetlands, and whitetails do not really like wetlands, so they are separated. Now there is small areas where they there's a mix of them, but it's
Overlap.
very low whitetails. Now they're in Dorchester County. There's other areas that have a high population of whitetails and a very low population of Sika deer. So it's a mix of both down in that area. The more wetlands, the more Sika deer you'll find. Um, Sika deer, from what I read, have a more wider range of food than whitetails. So they have different varieties of food that they prefer to eat. Obviously, Sika deer love acorns, so do whitetails. So that's just, a similar thing that they will eat. Um, Sika deer in Dorchester County, depending where you hunt, you need a permit. We hunted an area where you need permits, and you have to purchase them ahead of time. So it's a very interesting animal. They bugle. They're part of the elk family. I think they originated in Japan, I believe, and they were just brought over here by this dude named Henry Clement. And if you research Henry Clement, you'll see it. But it's pretty cool. They're small animals, mature stag. The males are called stags, and they will dress about 100 pounds. Field dress about 100 pounds. The females are called hinds, and a mature female may dress at about 50, 55 pounds. It's very good eating. I haven't ate one in about 20 years, but like Chris said, he has some meat now that he's going to eat.
Mhm.
So that's a brief history of Sika deer. Like I said, I'm not an expert on them. This is only my second year hunting them, but I've known about them since I've started hunting. And I did hunt them one time, like 20 years ago, and I shot one female hind, but I'm still after a stag. So let's start out. What was your experience as far as getting there? in the hotel, getting up early because you're not allowed to access the area until 3 hours. So we have to get there early, get in line, get to the parking lot. So what was that experience like?
So we roll up to the hotel and it is packed. It's
It was
full,
packed.
full, full of hunters, and I guess previously though to the day we got down there, what it was already bow season for them.
Yeah, it's been bow season since September.
So there was actually guys that were trying to bow hunt them, previously, and then a lot of guys were rolling in just like us because that was going to be the first morning of a permitted muzzleloader hunt that we had to buy a special permit for that one day.
Thursday.
Thursday was a special permit, and Dave stayed up late one night on the computer with his finger on the button, I guess. And when it said open to purchase, he hit the button and he got us 2 permits right away.
Hmm.
So we was part of the special allotted folks that got to hunt on that Thursday morning.
It's called limit. It's called limited muzzleloader.
Okay. So in the zone that we were in, we was only what, two of
I
30
think
some
I
permits
think
given
30.
out.
I think
Okay.
30.
So that was actually, we thought that was going to be a game changer, and we'll get to it, but it turns out it wasn't really that much of an advantage.
More
Only be
people.
only yeah, because we thought Friday and Saturday it would be loaded with people, and it
Hmm.
really didn't load up like we thought it would.
It dropped
Be
off.
It did drop off. So anyhow, yeah, we get into the hotel and I overpacked for sure.
Kill you.
Um, I mean, I'm always prepared, so I had way too much stuff. And we get into the hotel and wow, we was loaded to the gills. And
Even brought my bike inside.
yeah, I just we'll get to that too. I do not have an e-bike, so I took a mountain bike, which I do not recommend to do, but that's what I had and that's what I used. So it made my hunt a lot harder. But as we go forward, we get in the hotel, we're loaded up. We get to bed, I don't know, about 9:30, and Thursday morning we get up, the alarms go off at 3, and we get up, we get ready, and we go. We go out, get in the truck, reload the truck, everything we needed we take with us, and it was a different experience because I am not a morning person. I do get up every day at 3 a.m. anyhow for my work, so I was used to it. But then you got Dave. He was like the general. Come on, we gotta go, we gotta go. He's rushing me all the time. He's a pain in the butt. So we get in the truck and we get there, and there's a gate like he had just mentioned, and it's open, but you're not allowed to go through the gate till 3 hours before sunup.
So you got to look at the time of sunrise and then back up 3 hours.
Yeah, so we had to get out an app, look up our sun up,
Like
and
4:16.
figure out. Like the first morning, we were what? We were what? Third in line. There was already 2 trucks there in front of
Yeah,
us.
we were third in line and we couldn't. That first person can't go through until 4:16.
Yeah, so we had to wait until the clock turned 4:16, and then we fired up and rolled through the gate. And then you get into a parking area, and all the while there's a line of people behind you. So
Hmm.
it's a mad dash. Everybody parks. They all have got e-bikes. They all throw their e-bikes down, throw it on a kickstand, and they either have a pack with a stand on it or they have a rack that they strap a stand on and go. I mean, in the dark, off they go with a headlamp or a headlight on their bicycle, depending on what the bike they have.
It's
And
a it's a rush. First
it
come.
was a rat race, man. And
Yeah.
we actually heard a guy yell, "If you're not first, you're last."
Yeah. Yep. Ricky Bobby.
It was hilarious. And so obviously we weren't moving too quick because I was pedaling, and I'm not the
Well, we
youngest
got
guy.
we we got moving. We got moving.
We did. We got out of there pretty quick. But one of the problems with my setup was I didn't have the right gear to be doing this. I just took
Mhm.
the gear that I had. So it was a challenge, but we adapted and overcame. One of the issues was that the ratchet strap kept losing tension. Not the strap itself, I guess just the way it was stretched over the pack. And every time we hit a bump, it would work in a little bit and it would make a little bit of it would get loose. And we had to stop a few times and tighten up the whole load. But
Well,
we
well,
we
you're
we
we're
got it.
riding. I think we rode about I think it's about 1.5 miles. Some of it is like gravel, dirt roads, clear. Other it is, passes through the pines where they had mulched and bulldozed a trail.
Yeah.
So, and you're riding on pine needles.
Yeah. And I got skinny tires, like a
Hmm.
mountain bike, skinny tires. And you really need fat tires. And you really need an e-bike, but I didn't
And
have one. So
I mean,
but
depending where you go in there, you need an e-bike.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the big challenge. And
Well, by the time we got back to where we needed to go,
so we're headed to a clear cut.
yeah.
Okay. So we're headed to a clear cut and we get back and Dave says, I'm gonna go up this. They're actually old tram roads, is what they are, I guess, because that was all logged out at one time,
Hmm.
you know. So I'm assuming those were old tram roads that we were running. I don't know.
Probably
And so
logging roads.
yeah. So he says I'm gonna go up this tram and I'm gonna go in on the left. He's like, and on both sides of these tram roads, there's ditches and they're full of water and they stink like septic.
Hmm.
And maybe that's why they call it Blackwater. I don't know. But so anyhow, he's like, right there in the ditch, there's a little wooden bridge built across. He's like, cross the little wooden bridge, get out your hunt stand app, and go back to like where this second pin. He dropped some pins on the hunt stand for me when he scouted it back in September. He's like, go back somewhere towards this second pin and climb a tree. So I'm in the dark. I'm packed up like a mule. Just drove an hour, or a mile and a half pedaling a bicycle.
Sweating bullets.
You've got too many clothes on automatically. I mean, even if you went, what temperature was it? 55 that first morning.
Nah, the first morning was like 47.
47. Okay, because we're on that 50-degree mark. Even if you went in a t-shirt and shorts, you would have been too hot after pedaling for a mile and a half. So I was sweating bullets already. I'm packed up like a mule. I'm going in blind. My headlamp, I needed to step up my game on my headlamp. It wasn't really bright enough. So I literally was actually following Hunt Stam with my phone camera on, or my phone flashlight on, because it actually casted a better light than my headlamp. So there's in this clear cut, what would you call that? There was a muddy path.
Just a ditch where everybody walks through.
Yeah, it was like a ditch that the animals walked and people walk, and it was ankle high in water also. And so I followed this ditch all the way in, and a lot of people use it, like you said. And I followed that all the way in. I got back there in the dark around that second pin that Dave was talking about. I should go, and I look to my left, and there's already a guy in a tree right where Dave dropped the pin.
Well,
I'm
when we
like,
got back to where we needed to go, there was already like 6 or 7 e-bikes. Like
yeah,
they beat us back there,
yeah, they
and
beat us back because they can ride, and I was pedaling.
yeah.
And so yeah, when I got in there, there was already some guys in ahead of me, and so yeah, there's a guy there, and I'm like, what? Where do I go now? So I didn't know where to go, so I just went out into the middle of the clear cut. There was an outcropping of trees, and I climbed a tree out there and got away from everybody. And I figured, well, if they're hunting the edges, I know they're going to cross this clear cut somewhere, so I might as well just climb a tree. So that was my morning. Now, at first light, I heard something in front of me, and I seen my first Sika deer. I had a little spike come through. It was probably legal. It probably was totally legal,
Well,
but
I don't think there's an antler restriction on Sika. I think
I
they can be whatever they want.
whatever. Okay. Well, it was probably 3 or 4 inches, but they didn't go straight up. They curled back like a ram almost.
Mhm.
They curled backwards towards his ears. And I was texting Dave pictures of it. I'm like, look, my first Sika, and uh, he's like, you want to shoot it? I said, nope. I said, I'm gonna pass them up. I said, because there's got to be bigger stuff here. So that was my first experience.
Well, my morning obviously was the same, except I had found this new spot that I wanted to hunt from scouting because I had hunted that clear cut where you were at last year, and I had a huge mistake where I shot this monster stag. I don't know what happened; it still haunts me to this day. But it had fell over, flopped, and then gets back up and just walks away. And I never found it, but it was in the same general area where you were hunting, so
Mhm.
I had wanted to hunt in the woods more over top of this, little swampy area that comes in because it's all marsh. It's swamps and stuff. And where I went, I was walking in pretty much knee high water, where it kind of goes up and down knee high water all the way back to where I wanted to go. And my day was very uneventful. I didn't never saw a sick deer. And um, we hunted all day. I mean, we're in a stand for since 5:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and it was tough, but never saw a sick deer. And then I guess you saw another deer the same morning.
Yes,
You saw a
yes.
4 pointer that was a little bit far away.
It's at 7:50. I turned around in the tree I was in, and I was watching behind me, and then I turned back around, was looking forward, and kind of was looking down at the ground. And for some reason, I don't know, I just turned my head to my left, and I saw antlers above the grass. And about 90 yards out to my left, and it was just skirting me at 90 yards, going around me. Never got more than 100 yards away. It just stayed at 90 the whole way around because I was ranging it, and I could shoot comfortably probably 100 yards with my gun. But the problem was all I could see was its head. It would have been very unethical to take a shot at this thing through the grass because not only is there broom sedge grass as high as our waists, some places as high as our chests, um, the deer are small to begin with, smaller than a whitetail. So, they're well hidden in this grass.
We got little pines growing anywhere from a foot to
Yeah,
10 feet tall.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. There's pine, there's very little maple, but there is a couple maple. There's holly trees. I never knew holly grew on trees like Christmas holly that you
Hmm.
see. It's I always thought they was a bush. They were literal holly trees.
Yep.
There was black gum. There was some red oak and a lot of swamp oak. So there is a lot of oaks. Not a lot, but there's oaks. Primarily, every oak you see is a
A
swamp oak.
lot of grasses, native vegetation and
Yeah.
stuff.
So anyhow, yeah, this deer comes around me. I didn't have an ethical shot, and when I could see its body, I was standing up in my stand looking through tree limbs with binoculars. And when I could see the body, it was behind all the brush in the tree in front of me. So I never had a shot at the thing. And the whole time there's another hunter behind me. And this Sika had to walk past this guy. Had to. There's no way about it. I mean, because at first I didn't see the guy, so if I would have shot, it would have been right in line with this man, which would not have been good anyhow. But anyhow, no shot. I never heard a shot. So that was my experience with that. So the first day I did see two males.
I didn't hear. I heard like one shot the entire day, and it was like far away.
Hmm.
So that was your whole day. My
Yeah.
day was after lunchtime. I did climb out of the tree for like, I don't know, 20 minutes just to eat. As I was sitting on the ground eating below the tree, I heard a Sika fire up bugle, and it was close. And the whole morning in the dark, I heard Sika deer running through the water. I mean, they were bugling like they weren't more than 50 yards. It was dark.
Yeah.
And I heard the Sika fire up, so I hurry up and climb back in my tree, and it was dead the rest of the day. And then right before dark, I heard this freaking shot. I mean, it scared the crap out of me. It was maybe 50 yards from me. So there was another hunter there, and I didn't know he was there. So I had climbed down and I started walking out, and I didn't know where this guy was. So I was walking in the dark. All of a sudden, I see a white belly, and it's a dead Sika deer right there. I look up, and the guy had his red light on his headlamp. He's like, "Hey, bud." He's like, "I didn't know you were there until after I shot. I saw you climb down." I was like, "Dude, I didn't know you were there either." I said, "What time did you come in?" He's like, "I got to my stand at 2 o'clock." I said, well, "I've been here all day." I said, "I didn't even hear you. It was windy, and
Yeah.
I had the wind in my face." And I said, "I didn't even hear it." He's like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." He's like, "I apologize." He's like, "I didn't mean to get so close to you." I was like, "It is what it is."
Here's what it is.
So I walk past him, and we leave and meet up with you, and we pedal back out, and
Yeah.
um, we get back to the room, eat dinner, go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Next morning, get up 3 a.m. again.
Yep.
We hightail out of there. Now the next day, we can't
Different.
go through to the gate until 4:17.
Whole different story now. Yep.
Whole different story. Hardly anybody there.
We were first
Um,
in line that day.
we
Or
were
was that?
second in line. They had that one pickup truck ahead of us. We were second in line.
Oh, Saturday morning we were first. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay.
Friday morning, we're second in line. So we wait
That's right. The
4:7.
guy had the kid.
Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
had the
Yep.
kid.
Yep.
Yep. We go through the gate, and same thing. We wait till 4:17. We go to the parking lot. This time we're a little bit more ready, so we were pretty quick on getting out.
Yeah.
And same thing. We ride through the trails. We get all the way back to the back to this clear cut again. Not a
Hmm.
single bike there.
We were
There
the
was
only ones. We had
we're
the
the,
clear cut to ourselves.
we're the only ones. So this time, Chris went kind of off to the right a little bit,
Yeah.
probably
There was a
50 yards from where you were the
yeah.
first day.
There was a point. There was a jutting. There was a point there
Yeah.
that jutted out from the woods, and I told him, I said, I want to be over on that point so I can
Hmm.
see the whole field.
Yeah.
From and keep the woods to my back.
Right. And I said, this time I'm gonna hunt the clear cut. So I went all the way to the very furthest point of this clear cut, surrounded by swamp. I mean, it was a beautiful spot. And same thing, daylight or all morning, I heard Sika bugling behind me in the cattail swamps. I could hear them running through the water, bugling, chasing does, females. And daylight comes, I never see a Sika deer, but I could hear them in the frag just running like crazy, bugling no more than 50 yards. And all of a sudden, I hear this shot, and it sounded from where you were. So I
Hmm.
waited a couple minutes. I was like, I'll wait to see if you text me or whatever. You didn't text me. So I sent you, I said, "You shoot." You said, "Yeah, I did."
Yes. Yes.
And,
One word answer. Yes.
right. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Like, give me some information here. So you can tell the rest there.
So I what was it? It was about 10:30 or
It was about
so.
10:30. Yeah.
And actually from the direction Dave was, I seen antlers coming over the grass.
Hmm.
And it was probably out there 150 yards or so. And it was looked like it was walking that muddy ditch is what I think it was doing. I think it was walking that muddy ditch, and then it turned and started coming across the grass
Right to you.
right toward me. And I was like, "Oh boy, this is going to happen." So I uh I got I like when I set up, I like to have stuff on my strong side is my left side because I don't have to stand up or nothing. I could just shoot. Well, don't you know this thing come to my right side? So I I shifted around in my seat to the right, and I actually had my one leg off of the stand, hanging off the seat, and just had one leg on the stand. And I had my shoulder up against the tree, and it's coming. It's like I don't know, 80 yards or so, and it's going past all these little pine trees. And every time it would go through a pine tree, of course, you would lose sight of it. The grass was so high, there's dips and in the terrain, and I would lose sight of it, and it would pop up, and it would lose sight of it, pop up, and now this thing's getting into like 50, 60 yards, and it's only like 20 yards from the edge of the woods, and I'm like, if I don't shoot here pretty quick, it's gonna walk right out of my life. And I just put I just there was 2 pine trees. They was like, I don't know, maybe 8 feet apart, and he was gonna walk right in behind these 2 pine trees. So I just put the gun in between the pine trees, and when he stepped through the pine trees, I found his front shoulder, and I just laid the hammer down. Boom. And you have to understand, I was facing the frag, and the frag is what they call the swamp out in front of me, the marsh, and I was in the clear cut. So all out in front of me is marshy wetland, and then they cross this field coming towards the woods. And when when you shoot like a muzzle loader, usually poof, you got a big cloud and you can't see nothing. Well, when I shot, the wind was blowing so hard, there was no smoke. It just went poof and blew away. And I instantly was looking, what happened, and I didn't see the deer run. I didn't hear nothing going down through the woods. I didn't hear anything. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I dropped this thing. And so Dave texted, "Did you shoot?" One word, yes. And he texted back, "Well, what was it?" And I said, "Well, it's either a 5 point or a 6 point." And I said, "I think I dropped it, but I'm reloading and then I'm going to get down and go check."
Yeah, next
So
10 minutes later, I hear another freaking shot. Same area. I'm like, what's he doing over there?
yeah, so he hears another shot. That's because I get down and I'm walking that 50-yard over to where I shot the deer. And like I said, the grass is waist high. So you basically got to step on the thing before you find it. And I got right up to it, like within 10, 15 feet. And I seen something rustle in the weeds. And what it was his rack. His rack was rustling in the weeds. He was throwing his head around, twitching around, and I thought, well, okay, he's done for. I just stood there for a minute or so, and I thought, well, I don't want this thing to suffer, So I was going to go over and finish it off, just put it up to the rib cage or something. Boom. That's what I was going to do because I don't like to see animals suffer. I respect them too much, but I stepped in right in beside the thing. And I'm like, wow, this is nice. And he was still twitching around. And then he gets up. He gets to his feet. He turns to run. I'm so glad I reloaded the gun. I throw the gun up and find Brian and poof, just pull the trigger because he was up and turning. When he was turning, he offered me another great broadside shot, but at 15 feet. And the scope's on 4 power. So I just find Brian and bam. Well, that one spined him, and when it hit the spine, we actually found the bullet. Hit the spine, severed the spine. He dropped instantly, of course. But when it hit that spine, it deflected. It went down through its hind leg, which didn't do any damage to the leg, I figured out. But it did go down and break down by the elbow on the rear leg. So the first shot went in the rib cage and came out the other front shoulder. Remember that front shoulder was just all
Hmm.
broke there. So I got one through the rib cage. It came out through the front shoulder, and it was just hanging and dangling there when we butchered it out. But those bullets didn't seem to do too much damage.
Mm-mm.
Like when you shoot with a rifle and it gets all bloodshot through the meat, those muzzle loader bullets, it just kind of went right through and just a tunnel and in and out. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was my experience. I walked up on a thing and it tried to get. These things have a will to live, obviously. Like
Well,
you
like that
said
one I shot
last
last
year,
year.
last year, like you said, it got up
Mm.
and it gone. Yeah, this thing, as soon as it cut full eyeball of me, it bounced up and ran like it was never even hit. And luckily, I had one in the chamber and
Yeah.
bang,
Well,
put it down.
you would text that or text back and said, "Yeah, I got it." I said, "All right, well." The only thing we really do is, I'll meet you over there and we'll pack it out.
Hmm.
So I climbed down and I had to walk probably 300 yards to you. And I walk up to this thing. And at the time, you didn't really know like what
I
it,
have no idea what I
yeah.
shot.
I'm like, dude, you just shot a 6-point stag. Like that's a monster, like a trophy. So we took some pictures and then we ended up skinning this thing out and quartering it up.
Hmm.
So we each had hunter edge knives and
Yeah,
swing blades.
outdoor edge swing blades. Yep.
Yep. And we skinned this thing out, quartered it up, and you had some bags that you got from Brad,
Yeah.
cooler buck bags, game saver bags or whatever they are. So we ended up, you know, putting all the meat in there, took backstrap, everything we could, and you weren't worried about getting it mounted, so we took everything with us, and then my tree stand, the seat folds down and makes like a shelf. So you loaded me up with meat, and I ended up packing this thing out back to my electric bike and drove it back to the truck, which we forgot our cooler. So I had
Yeah.
to throw the meat in there. And when I got back to the parking lot, there was like four guys just standing there in the parking lot. Two guys were sitting in cars. So I'm like, okay. So I rushed, threw the meat in the truck, went back to the hotel, got the cooler, took it. I ended up taking a shower, ate lunch, uh, put the meat in there, drove back, got ice, and then came back to the clear cut. And you had took my bag, my steps, and my gun, and you climbed back in the tree because
Yes.
you could shoot a doe this time.
Yes.
So as I was gone,
When I
you
was
had
gone,
you had more deer,
I had a spectacular day while you were gone.
and I never even saw a Sika this entire time, and
This
you're
entire
loaded with Sika.
I Dave was gone, and I had two spikes chase a hind right in front of me. So I've got two doe tags, and I'm thinking, I don't know, man. These freaking females are small,
55 pounds or so.
and they were just loping around. She was hot. She was in, yeah, she was ready to breed, obviously, and these two spikes were right on her, and they were loping along, and they chased them right in front of me at like 25 yards, and I thought, nah, he's gonna kill me if I shoot another one. He has to turn around and pack it straight back up. So I let that one go. so so there was mine that I shot, those three. So I've seen four now. Why
Just
then?
just that day, the first day you saw two.
Yeah, the first day. Now, so I saw four that morning, three more in addition to the one I shot.
Hmm.
So, like 5 minutes later, I hear something behind me coming through the field, and here comes another buck stag. It's a 4 point, and it was bird dogging through the grass, following that same trail that those two spikes just chased the hind down
Hmm.
through. She must have been hot, and he was trailing them, bird dogging them like a whitetail does. And he
Well,
come walking past me at
yep,
25 yards.
yeah,
I was like, "Are you kidding me? Where's Dave? He needs to be in his tree right now."
yep.
So that's what, 4 or 5 right there. And
Well,
then later
mid
in the evening,
Yeah, mid-September is the Sika ruts. It's a few weeks earlier than whitetails, but
right.
um, what happened to you is what happened to me last year. I mean, it's a little bit time difference, but same situation. So where I hunted last year in that clear cut, I was on the opposite side of it than what you were, but we're distance-wise back in the clear cut. It was roughly the same area,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in my stand at 1:30 last year when I shot my Sika buck, the one that got up and ran away. I never found. This time you shot the Sika buck at 7 or 10:30, and it was the same thing. It was going across this field.
Yeah.
Um, and I believe the one I shot last year was a 6-point as well. So same area, same, kind of midday action per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as I'm burning up, carrying the meat out, you're seeing rut action,
I'm seeing all kind of
and
action. Yeah.
I'm mumbling stuff the whole time, carrying his meat out, walking,
He's
trenching through water.
he's upset.
Yep. So I walk back in. Still, there was no bikes in
Mm-mm.
this. We were the only ones in this area, and which blew me away. I figured it would be packed with people. So I get back to you, And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go across the other side of this clear cut. So we're about 150 yards apart. And we set up, and I saw out to my left, I saw three, three females that were walking this way out of the woods. Something, they got spooked and they ran back behind you,
Hmm.
and they circled back around and they came out to my right, and I saw you in a distance, like pointing. So I
Yeah.
look over, and there they were again, the same three I saw.
Yeah.
um I mean, I could have had a shot, but it was a little far, and they were kind of moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
um but
So
that wrapped up that day.
they swung around in behind me and came out
Yeah,
right below me at 15 yards.
right.
Now I could have shot the lead doe,
Mhm,
but there again, I was like, man, I think I'm just going to pass up does from here on out
mhm.
because
Not
I
much
I,
meat.
I kind of gave up because I was like, These things are so small, and I don't want to have to pack out a second one." And not only that, but the third one out was a spike. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, maybe Dave would want to crack at this spike. And if I shoot the doe, who knows where the spike will go, and he'll never get a shot. And possibly they would turn and go towards him. And they did come across the field past you, but like you said, a little too far. And you weren't really interested in a spike anyhow.
Yeah, I want a stag I can get on the wall, but
But I didn't know that at the time, and I
yeah,
was like, "Yeah, heck with that. I'm not gonna shoot a female now anyhow." So I
right.
was just putting my time in so we could get out of there tonight, that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah,
And
I'll post some pictures up too for the YouTube of the stag he shot, and me packing the meat out
yeah.
and stuff. But um we left there. Well, no, it started raining.
I will
So,
kill you.
yep, we looked at the weather, and it said like 7 to 8 showers. I'm like, okay, well, we're getting out of stand 6:30. There was nothing on the radar. We should be fine. Well, at like 5:30, I started feeling raindrops.
Mhm.
I'm like, this okay, hopefully this just passes or whatever. Well, it started raining,
Yeah,
and we got soaked.
soaked
By the time we were hunting, it rained. Climb out of the tree, it was raining. Walk to meet you, it was raining. And the entire ride out
the entire ride.
was raining.
We were so soaked,
Yeah. I wasn't cold.
dripping,
Yeah.
dripping wet.
Dripping. I wasn't cold by any means,
Oh, I
but it was
wasn't
just
either because I just pedaled out,
right. So we weren't chilled. But we were soaked.
dripping.
Um, but I mean, it was part of it.
Your floor mats actually held water because we were so
Yeah.
wet.
Yep. Seats got soaked. So then this is where I got upset.
Dave gets
Um,
irritated
I got irritated to the max. Um,
to the max.
I was tired,
Grumpy.
and I was grumpy because my shoulders, and I have neck issues where my neck like just gets in pain, and I get this headache, and I was on the verge of a headache from packing the meat out with the straps and stuff.
I'm a pain in
So
your neck.
yep. So I ended up taking when this happens, I take Advil, and it kind of eases the headache. So all I wanted to do was get back to the room. I knew the hotel had a dryer so we could dry our clothes. I wanted to get some food, and I just wanted to go to bed because when I get hungry, I get violent. So I wanted to get food in me and just go to bed. So we get back there, and we go to the room, we change, I think we shower, we throw all the clothes, take the wet clothes out, and we walk down to this machine, and all it takes is freaking quarters, right? So I'm like, okay, I don't have any quarters, but I got cash. So I went down to the front desk, and the lady was like, I said, I need change for the dryer. She's like, oh, sir, I only have a couple quarters. I'm like, okay, well, how much is it? She's like, I think it's 250. I said, okay. So I was like, well, give me what you got. So she cashes my entire $5 in change, but she gives me like dimes. Like some of it was quarters and some was dimes and nickels. So we go back to this machine, we throw our clothes in, and Knucklehead you said, "Oh, let's just put it on medium heat." And it gives us 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, medium heat should be enough. So we throw this thing in there, turn this thing on, we go back to the room, we eat, time it. I'm like, all right, well, let's go get our clothes. We go back, they're freaking soaking wet. They
Still wet.
didn't still wet. So I'm like, I don't have any more quarters.
So
Like,
I'm thinking. Let me explain the medium heat.
I get
Dave,
what
my camo is not all expensive and everything. Dave has nice expensive camo, so I'm thinking, if we put this thing on high heat, it could damage his camo. And that's the only thought I had. But I
mhm.
figured 30 minutes on medium would be fine. So go ahead.
So they weren't dry. So I'd look
No,
at I'm like, dude, I don't have any more quarters. I'm gonna go out to my truck. Well, I went out to my truck, I had 50 cents. I tried to put in the dimes this lady gave me. It just rejects it. It only takes quarters. So you said, "Oh, I got 5. I'm gonna go back to the
the counter.
lady and ask." They
She
don't have change.
rejected me. She rejected me.
She rejected you. They don't
She
have any change.
she says, "Sir, I have no more quarters."
I was ready to flip a table.
I said, "Where are we gonna get quarters at?" She's like, "You'll have to drive down the street to a convenience store." I said, "Are you kidding me? I'm in freaking boxer shorts and a t-shirt and tennis shoes." And I'm like, "Dave, let's go. We gotta go down the street and get quarters." So I go into a convenience store in my boxers and a t-shirt, and they're looking at me like, "Who is this fool?"
Mhm.
And and I get everybody's foreign. I go in, I get foreign people. I'm like, I need change. Oh, I can do that, he says. And yeah, he's counting them out 4 at a time. 1, 2. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So he gives me $5 in quarters. And so we go back to the room or to the hotel and get up to floor 2 and we pump the thing full of quarters, switch it to high, and and we're on floor 3, so we're just like, "Oh, we'll just take the steps up." We're halfway up the steps and we hear boom, 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 all this noise. And it sounds like it's coming from the dryer. And he goes, "Oh, you probably left a primer in your pocket and it just blew up." And I was like, it was like one of them aha moments. I was like, "Oh my gosh. I left my primer in there in in the bullet that we find in the hide on the buck that we butchered or quartered up in my front pocket of my hunting pants." So we hightail it back down the steps, open the door on the dryer. I find a bullet bouncing around in the dryer. And I'm like, "Dude, I hope our clothes aren't all full of holes because this bullet was sharp and it was mushroomed back and it was in there banging around with all our clothes." I'm like, "Man, I hope I just didn't ruin all these first light clothes that Dave has." And never did find a primer.
No.
Primer was
Nope.
gone.
Yep.
Don't know where it went.
Yep.
But so yeah, throw the
We ti
clothes back in,
we
back to
timed
the
it
room.
again, 30 minutes. We came back and they still weren't.
By this time, we're like ready to, we're like passing out,
Yeah.
waiting for the timer to go off.
They still weren't 100% dry.
No, they
So
weren't.
we get them back.
We wore them the next morning damp.
Well, I had more clothes, so I ended up ended up wearing different stuff because they just still weren't. And I knew
Yeah,
it was going to be windy, so I didn't want that wind blowing on damp clothes.
yeah,
So I ended up just throwing them off to the side. I wore different stuff, but same thing. We get up at 3 this time Saturday morning. Everybody's off work,
first in
think,
line,
thinking that it's going to be slammed. We were first in line. We ride back to the same spot.
418 through the gate.
418 through the gate, same spot. We were actually, as we were getting to the clear cut on the bikes, we locked them up, and here comes a headlight. A guy was behind us, and he's like, "Hey, where you guys going?" We kind of just told him, and he's like, "All right, well, I'm going all the way back to the back." I'm like, "All right, well, we're not gonna be close or nothing." So same thing. We get back there. We hunted the same spot where we hunted the second day, and it was super windy. I mean,
Yeah,
it was whipping.
mhm,
So, I ended up, well, we had to check out the hotel by 11.
yeah,
So we just said, "Hey, 9 o'clock, let's get down. We'll meet up, get back to the truck, go to the hotel, load our stuff up." So I ended up, it was about 8:45. I heard something to my left and I saw a movement. So I got the gun up and I'm looking, and it was a hind, but the thing couldn't have been no more than like 20 pounds,
mm,
25. It was small. So I'm like, I'm not shooting this thing. So 9 o'clock, it
we
rained a
boogied.
little, it drizzled a little bit. 9 o'clock, it was windy. We had to get out of there. So ended up going back to the truck, and we loaded up, and we just said screw it. We didn't hunt the afternoon. It was windy, tired, and all that. So we ended up rolling home about 11:30.
Yeah.
But that was our hunt. So my second year, still haven't shot a stag. Chris shows up, first time ever hunting him, shoots a stag, an awesome stag,
And a doozy at that, I guess.
yeah, six pointer stag. So that was our hunt. So overall, would you ever do it again?
The only way I would do this again,
What's the only way?
I would have to have access to an e-bike,
Yep.
and I need a better seat cushion for a stand or a different stand.
Okay.
My butt was so sore from pedaling and from all day sits. It was horrible.
So minus that, would you
Minus that,
you would
I
do
don't
it
know.
again?
I don't know.
You don't like hunting sick
I
of deer?
don't. I don't know. I don't know if I would or not.
You don't like the bugling, and you don't think it was cool?
That was cool. Yeah, it was real cool. I mean, it was pretty neat, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't shoot a female.
You'd
That
only
would.
shoot a stag.
Yeah, it wouldn't interest me because they're so small.
Yeah.
I think it's a waste of time to shoot a hind.
Yeah, you don't get much meat out of them.
No, I mean we didn't get that much out of this stag, and the stag was huge.
Hmm.
The stag was so big. No, that's another thing, guys. I'm gonna have a whole video after this podcast during the week. I didn't get footage of the kill shot, but I'm gonna try to make a video up of our hunt and have pictures attached and everything. So get over to the channel, my channel, City Sticker, and I'll have a new video coming out. And be sure to subscribe. Get in on the subscription because I'm gonna be giving away a knife for the 1,000 subscribers. But anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna get to all that, and I'll have a video coming out. So where was I going with that? So yeah, the size of the deer, it literally it was like the size of a whitetail. I mean, I mean,
It was smaller.
yeah, but I mean, it's a small. It was the size
The,
of a doe whitetail.
yes, yes, of a doe whitetail. Yeah,
Easy, not a buck whitetail, of
right.
course. But
Yeah,
it was a decent sized deer, but it did not yield as much meat as a doe would. I would
it
think.
had it had more fat on it than a whitetail,
Hmm.
I think.
But their structure was a little bit different
Hmm.
too, because we noticed when we was taking the back straps out, like on a whitetail, you get a back strap from the back of the neck all the way to the tailbone, and the
Hmm.
back strap could be 4 foot long or so.
These were like this.
They were smaller than that. Like
Yeah,
now they've shrank up. Now they're only like 2 foot long.
yeah.
The back straps are tiny on it.
Hmm.
The
But they have real thick hair on them. Like they have this.
Yeah, it's almost like a mane underneath.
Yeah, underneath.
Like a deer seems to have a mane. A whitetail has like a mane down
Right.
the back of their neck,
Yep.
and these have like a mane down down their belly.
And they're almost black,
Yeah,
and
and this.
they have no tail. It's just like a little ball.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, when we flipped it over, he was soaking wet. He must have just came out of that frag area.
Stinking.
Oh, he was rutted up. Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, it was
But
bad.
but see, there's another thing we don't know about. Do they drop their antlers every year like a whitetail?
Yeah. Hmm.
Do they rub a tree to get? Do they have velvet? They rub a tree and make a
Hmm.
buck rub.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like I noticed, like they didn't have hawks on their legs like a whitetail buck. I noticed they didn't have that. There's some different things about those Japanese Sika.
Well,
It's
it's a
interesting.
they're interested in that part, the way they bugle and the way the habitat that they live in.
Hmm.
It's drastically different than whitetails, and to be able to hunt them. I mean, you could hunt them by the parking lot for sure. I mean, you don't have to go far.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a different setup. I mean, to where when we're hunting public land, it's all public land. You shot a public land giant Sika stag.
Yeah.
Um, you got to be prepared for it. You got to have a e-bike to get back in there. You have to have a comfortable stand. You got to have good rubber boots. Sometimes if it's really wet, you need hip waders.
Mhm.
And the freaking mosquitoes.
Oh,
Um,
that was my
ground
first experience with my thermocell.
ground level, ground level.
Oh, ground level's
We
horrible.
got 8 alive.
Setting up your
Um,
tree stand and getting
eight
down at
alive.
night or getting to the parking lot where the bicycles we left
Oh,
them.
terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but
My
once you're in the
face
tree,
is all chewed up.
Once you're in the tree, they weren't terrible. I mean, I heard them, and then we turned the thermocell on. It did a it knocked them down.
Yeah, for sure.
But the bugs, I mean, it's just a you gotta have you gotta be you gotta be mentally capable, strong to do the hunt. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all day sits.
Mhm.
You gotta be ready for it. You gotta be
Monday
prepared.
Monday sit, we was all amped up. The day
Yeah.
went by. It flew by. It was
Mhm.
great. And then Tuesday coming, it was like, "Oh my gosh."
You gotta
Just
be
just getting to the point
yeah,
of where at 10:30 when I shot that stag, it was
yeah,
it seemed like forever. And then the time you were gone flew by. And then when you got back and climbed back up in a tree, from that point on till dark seemed to take forever. And then icing on the cake, we got drenched.
yeah.
That was just horrible. I
Mhm.
mean, by this time, my butt's so sore from riding a bike, so sore from all day sitting, and then we get rained on, and then you're grumpy. Made me grumpy. It made me grumpy. So, yeah, the second day was starting to get on my nerves a little
That
bit.
the dryer situation did me in.
Yeah,
As little as that, the little simple dryer
yeah,
situation.
but after that rain, anything was gonna set.
Yeah.
It didn't
Here.
matter who you were, you was gonna
Yep.
get set off.
I'm like, how can this hotel not have at least a coin machine or something to get freaking coins for the
Yeah,
dryer?
for
It,
sure.
I was here. It was just we were wet, tired, and everything. But
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna continue to hunt them. I want a Sika stag on my wall. It's just a goal. I'm going to hunt them. So last night I was pouting a little bit, so I ended up ordering more permits. I'm gonna hunt them again this year. Going down for a late season shotgun hunt. Um, I'm gonna try again. I want to sick a stag, and if I don't get one, I'll do the same thing next year. I'll get a permit. I'll hunt the 3 day early muzzleloader hunt, and I don't see me doing this, for the rest of my life. I think once I get a sick a stag, I probably just maybe hunt them every now and then. It won't be an every year thing. Um, but I really, really want a six stag.
yeah.
So a six
It,
point.
it's definitely a bucket list thing.
Yeah, it's definitely I'm gonna do it until I get one. So um that's our hunt, that's our experience. Hopefully Chris goes again because it was fun. But that's it.
If I would like to thank some people. First of all, I want to thank Dave because Dave went down in September and scouted, and then um, he set up the hotel rooms. He packed out my buck. I mean, that's a good guy. I want to thank him personally right now. Thank you for that. Um, the other people I'd like well, we both were using all Limit Shield products for our scent free, and with the wind the way it is down there and the situations we're in, that definitely helps.
I didn't
You
wear
know,
any deodorant.
no, I use all Limit Shield product.
We took shower at nighttime. I put foam on before I went to sleep, and then when
Hmm.
we got up in the morning, I just put more foam on.
Right. I mean, we was using all Limit Shield products to eliminate our scent, and even after all the sweating, I mean, here I am, guys. I'm pedaling a mile and a half, and we were soaked by
That
the
first
time by the
that
time
first
we got there.
that first morning when we got and put our bikes up against the tree, I mean, it was dark. I look over, I just turned my head because we had headlight. I look over at you. Your head was a ball of sweat.
I was dripping. When I leaned over, sweat was dripping off my
Ball of
nose.
sweat. Literally a ball of sweat.
And so I was soaking wet when I went in, and then that wind, I froze to death in there. But
Mhm.
anyhow, all that sweating in, all that sweating out, no detection. Never got
I
busted,
I
you know,
didn't I smelled just to check too. And I got nothing.
but it never got busted. So their products are legit. I want to thank them for those, and our contact guy Philip. I want to thank Brad from Coolabuck.
They're awesome.
Brad's my buddy. Brad went to high school with my wife. Brad's very business minded. He has a few different companies, but Coolabuck's one of them. And Brad's a good buddy of mine. He helps me out. He gave us
The bags.
the bags that we use to pack the meat out. So check out Coolabuck if you guys would like to see those bags.
And I want to say something about that.
Yeah,
I've
go ahead.
never used. I do have one. I have that bag that I specifically bought for Sika last year. Haven't used it yet,
Right.
but I seen the commercial years ago where Brad was on there and he
Yeah.
has the meat on the table where the
Yes.
flies were on the meat and then no
Yes.
flies in the bag. And we got to see that firsthand
Firsthand.
as we were skinning this Sika deer out, quartering it up. It was the sun beaming on us, the thing stinking, and the flies were
Or
on the meat.
all over the carcass.
We put it in the bags and they were probably what, 5, 6 feet away.
Something like that. Yeah.
Not a single fly.
There was no insects
None.
or dirt on the meat when we slid it in the bag.
Nope.
Uh, so firsthand, the stuff is legit. And I even called him last night and was talking to him when I got home. And he was happy. I made a bunch of posts on Facebook and Instagram and stuff about it. He was thankful. And yeah, I told him about it. I said, yeah, this stuff, those things are great. So yeah, I wanted to thank them over at Cooler Buck, my buddy Brad. Who else was it? Is that it? Maybe
Let
that's
me
it.
show them cool buck.
Lemon Shield, Cool Butt, our Outdoor Edge knives, which Brad's also a rep for them.
Yeah, we use them.
Those knives are awesome,
We
man.
both had the same knife.
Yeah, we had the
Actually,
swing.
the knife you use is my old knife, isn't
That
it?
was the old knife that you was gonna throw away
Yeah,
because he left it in his truck bed sit for over a year, and
yeah.
it was starting to get rusty and stuff. Well, I said I'll resurrect that thing. Give me it. So I brought it home. I cleaned it all up, buffed it
Mhm.
all up, shined it all up, sharpened it all up, and I use it all the time now.
And I ended up buying a new one, and
Yeah,
we had the
yeah.
same knife.
Yeah, so we both had swing blades. We both had bone saws. We had the bags, and Dave had a pack. So
Well, tree
it
stand.
all worked out.
Yeah, the tree
All worked
stand.
out.
If we didn't have the tree stand to use as a like a platform, it would have been
Yeah,
tough. But that
yeah,
seat,
for
that's when
sure.
that seat folds down, makes like an L.
Yeah.
We packed all that meat right on there and just bungee corded and strapped it, and I hauled it out.
Well,
So
the e-bikes is the game changer. You got to have that.
100%. I mean, I got to my bike, unlocked them, I climbed on that thing, and I just stood up the whole time with the meat on the back, and I actually just I leaned forward a little bit so the weight wasn't kind of on my shoulders. I kind of just hunched over a little bit and just drove all the way back. I put that thing in three, and I just zoomed all. I was back to the truck in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. You from time you left me to time you was back underneath my tree stand, it was literally like 2 hours. And
Yeah,
you showered and ate lunch and went and bought ice.
25-minute drive to the hotel.
Yeah,
20-minute drive.
he was back in 2 hours to
Hmm.
almost to the dot. I
I
was like,
rushed.
"Holy crap."
Well, by the time I left you, I had a 15-minute walkout, 20-minute walkout, 5-minute drive on the bike back to the truck, 20-minute drive to the hotel. I mean, ate lunch, showered. I even brought the bike into the hotel for 15 minutes to charge it because my battery sucks on the thing, and took it back out, loaded it in the truck, and I put that thing in like gear 5 when I went back to you, and only thing I had to carry walking in was just the tree stand itself.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, so that's our hunt, guys.
That's our hunt.
That's
That was
episode
I
43.
hope you
And
guys enjoy it and be watching for the next video I'm going to make with all the pictures involved. And
yeah,
I did take some video with my phone, so I will show you the area,
terrain.
the terrain we're in. I even videoed. I didn't tell you this. I videoed that 4 point bird dogging through the field
Mm,
and right in front of me, and he was going and sniffing around. So I'm going to have some pretty neat video content. So get over to my channel and subscribe, City Sticker Chris. And we thank you for watching. This is an hour-long special
this is our
podcast.
first hour long podcast.
Yeah,
Real quick though, some update is Um, obviously, we're getting toward the end of October, so the whitetail rut's going to be kicking in here shortly. I am off for 9 days right around Halloween, so I'll be hunting the rut full swing, Maryland, PA. You got a bunch of half days coming up to
yeah,
hunt the
yeah,
rut,
yep.
and so we should have some rut stories, and
Hmm.
hopefully we both connect on a whitetail here.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Okay, guys. Thanks for watching
Later,
episode 43.
Sika, Sika
Sika.
out.
See ya.